I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife Lisa for almost 10 years now. We have a beautiful daughter, Emily, who's 12, and on paper, everything seemed fine. We had our normal ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. She's kind of a bitch sometimes, always snapping at me when I forget to take out the trash or don't do something exactly her way. But I figured that's just how she is, demanding, a little manipulative, but mostly she loved our family. Lately, though, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right. She was acting distant, more secretive about her phone. She'd leave her phone lying around but quickly grab it whenever I walked into the room, like she was hiding something. She also started coming home later than usual, claiming she was working late or meeting up with her friends, but I could tell she was lying. I didn't push too hard at first, figuring maybe I was just imagining things, or maybe she was having a rough patch at work. Then came the small signs of change. In her routine, she stopped wearing her wedding ring sometimes, which she always wore in the past. She started changing her passwords on her phone and laptop, and her attitude toward me got colder, less affectionate, more dismissive. I was starting to feel like I was losing her, and honestly, I was scared of what that meant. I tried asking her about it, but she'd brush me off, say I was overthinking or paranoid. She'd call me insecure and tell me I was imagining things. That's what she always did, twist everything around to make me doubt myself. It wasn't just the little things, though. She had this new friend, Karen, from her work, and she'd talk about her a lot. Usually I wouldn't care, but something about the way she said Karen's name, like she was trying to impress her or fit in somehow, made me suspicious. And then one night I decided to check her phone. It was late and she had gone to bed early. Something was off. I snuck into her room, unlocked her phone, and started scrolling through her messages. Nothing suspicious at first, just usual work stuff, some gossip, some silly meme she shared. But then I saw a message from an unknown number. It was a picture, a screenshot of some hotel booking confirmation with a date that was yesterday. My heart skipped a beat. I clicked on the message thread and what I saw made me freeze. There were dozens of texts, flirty, suggestive, even explicitly sexual. They talked about meeting up after hours, getting away from everyone, escaping for a little while, and other stuff that made it painfully clear she was having an affair. I recognized the name attached to the number from her recent stories about her friend Corinne, but this was different. Someone else, someone she was sneaking around with. I felt sick. My stomach twisted and my mind raced. How could she do this? How could she betray our family like this? I put the phone back carefully, trying not to wake her. I sat in the dark, staring at the wall, trying to process what I just saw. I didn't want to believe it, but all the signs pointed to one terrible truth. Lisa was cheating on me. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How long had this been going on? Was she planning to leave? I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying the images and trying to make sense of it. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know how. All I knew was that my world was crashing down, and I was left trying to hold on to some semblance of control while feeling like I was drowning in a sea of lies. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the weight of what I'd discovered was pressing down on me like a ton of bricks. I knew I couldn't just pretend I didn't see what I saw, no matter how much I wanted to. I had to face her. I got up early while she was still asleep, made myself a coffee, and sat in the living room trying to figure out what to do. My mind kept racing over every detail, every sign I'd missed, every argument we'd had lately. How blind I'd been. When she finally woke up, I could tell she was acting strange. She seemed nervous, like she was hiding something behind that bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was clever. I looked at her and decided I'd confront her directly. No more hiding or pretending. I'd had enough of her lies. "Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "we need to talk about last night." She looked at me with that fake innocent face, the half smile, as if she didn't know what I was talking about. "What are you talking about, Mike?" I was sleeping. I pulled out my phone, opened the message thread, and laid it on the coffee table. "This? Who is this? And what the hell is going on?" Her eyes widened for a second, then she immediately started to lie. That's nothing, Mike, just some work stuff. You're overreacting. I didn't buy it. I could see the panic in her eyes. This isn't work, Lisa. This is a fucking affair. You've been cheating on me, haven't you? Her composure cracked just a little. She scoffed and rolled her eyes. Oh, please, you're so paranoid. Maybe I was just talking to a friend. You're always accusing me of something. Why would I cheat on you? You think I'd do that? Really? I felt my blood boil. You've been lying to me for weeks. I've seen the changes in your behavior, the late nights, the secretive phone calls. And now I find proof in your own messages. Don't lie to me, Lisa. I'm done with your bullshit. She crossed her arms, trying to act dismissive, but I saw the flicker of guilt behind her eyes. Then she started to get defensive, her tone turning bitchy. Fine, Mike. If you want to know the truth, maybe I was tired of your crappy attitude, your constant nagging, and your inability to see I needed something more than your boring ass. Maybe I needed excitement, something you can't give me. That hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Yeah, she was good at turning things around, making me feel like it was all my fault, like I was the problem. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her she was disgusting, that she had no respect for our marriage or our family, and that I was done with her lies. She looked at me with disdain, sneering. You're such a clown, Mike, always so dramatic. If you think I'm gonna sit here and apologize for having a life outside of your little bubble, you're dead wrong. Grow up. You're just jealous because I found someone who makes me feel alive. Unlike your boring ass. That's when I realized this wasn't just about cheating. It was about the fact that she didn't care. She didn't care about our marriage, about Emily, about the life we built. She was ready to throw it all away for some secret sex with her principal, apparently. I felt everything inside me change, anger, sadness, a gnawing sense of betrayal. I'd been blind, but now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative bitch who'd rather cheat than work things out. I told her to pack her things and leave. I said I needed space to think, to process what she'd done. She rolled her eyes, snapped back some snide remark, and stormed out of the house. I sat there alone, staring at the door she just slammed, feeling more hollow than I ever thought possible. My mind kept spinning with rage, pain, and the gnawing question of what I was supposed to do now. How do you rebuild your life after something like that? How do you look your daughter in the eye, knowing her mother is out there, lying, cheating, and sneering at everything we built? That's where I was, standing in the ruins of a marriage I thought was unbreakable, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust again, or if I'd just become another guy who got betrayed and swallowed his pride. After Lisa left, I didn't know what to do with myself. I just sat on the couch for what felt like hours, staring at the empty doorway, replaying everything I just learned. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. I'd always thought of her as strong, maybe a little bitchy, but loyal. Turns out she was capable of lying, sneaking around, and even having sex with the principal of Emily's school, who she'd been calling her friend all this time. That realization made me feel sick. I kept asking myself, how long had she been doing this? Was it a one-time thing or something she planned to keep going? The images haunted me. Her with that guy, sneaking into that hotel after hours, her trustworthiness evaporating in front of my eyes. I finally got up, went to my bedroom, and stared at the mess I'd made trying to find out the truth. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I hesitated, then looked at it. It was a message from an unknown number. My stomach sank. I hesitated, then opened it. It was a text from the principal himself, Michael, I believe his name was, saying something like, "Thanks for your understanding, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate your discretion about everything." My blood ran cold. That confirmed everything. They'd been meeting, sneaking around after hours, probably during parent-teacher conferences like I'd suspected. I felt rage building inside me, hot, explosive. I couldn't believe she was capable of this level of betrayal. My mind raced with thoughts of revenge, of making her pay for what she'd done to us. I wanted to ruin her, to make her feel as small and humiliated as I felt. But I also knew I needed to be smart about it. If I did something impulsive, I'd just end up hurting myself and Emily more. Still, the idea of confronting her with the truth, of showing her I knew everything, that felt satisfying somehow. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some fool she could walk All over. That night I stayed awake planning my next move. I decided I'd need proof more than just the messages. I wanted her to understand that I knew everything. I'd start by digging into her emails and messages more, see if there was even more she'd hidden. I also decided I'd follow her when she left, just to see who she was really meeting and where she was going. I was furious but focused. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. No way. She'd underestimated me, and now I was going to make her regret ever crossing me. The next morning, I started gathering everything I could find. I went through her emails, her social media, her phone. I contacted some of her friends, people she'd mentioned, trying to piece together how long this had been going on and who else might be involved. I felt like a detective in some revenge movie, except this was my real life and my family's future hanging in the balance. Every new piece of evidence I uncovered only fueled my anger. She always played the victim, the perfect wife in public, but behind closed doors she was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator. I was done being the naive husband. This was war. While I was busy, she called a few times trying to deny everything, playing the victim, saying I was crazy and paranoid. I didn't answer. I knew better now. I knew her game. She'd lie through her teeth and then accuse me of pushing her away, of not trusting her. Sorry, Lisa. You lost that right the minute I saw those texts. I was planning my revenge now, something clever, something that would hit her where it hurt the most. She thought she could hide her little affair, manipulate everyone, and keep her good girl image. But I was done letting her control the narrative. I was going to make her see the damage she'd caused. And so I waited. I kept digging, kept planning. I knew I'd confront her soon, but I wanted everything lined up perfectly. I wanted her cornered, exposed, and helpless. She'd lied to me about everything, and I was about to make her admit it all. I wasn't just angry. I was hurt, betrayed, and finally, completely fed up. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about her crossing a line I never thought she'd dare to cross. From that moment, I realized my marriage as I knew it was over. All I could do now was decide what to do with the wreckage. Over the next few days, I threw myself into gathering more evidence. I installed a tracking app on her phone just to see where she was going when she left the house. It wasn't long before I had confirmation. She was visiting that school principal's house after hours, sometimes late into the night. I'd watch her car pull up, her get out, and stay there for hours. I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare, but I knew it was real. Every time I watched her disappear into that house, my stomach clenched tighter and my mind raced with a mix of betrayal and revenge. One afternoon, I finally decided I couldn't delay anymore. I had enough proof, more than I ever thought I'd need. I called her from a blocked number, told her I wanted to meet. Her voice on the line was icy, but she played the innocent victim as always. "What do you want, Mike? Can't you just leave me alone?" I told her. I had something to tell her, something she needed to hear in person. She agreed reluctantly, and I told her to meet me at the park near our house at 6 p.m. When she arrived, I was already waiting, my stomach twisting with anxiety. She looked angry, defensive, but I didn't care. I laid everything out, showed her the messages, the photos, the times I'd tracked her. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. She started to deny it, said I was crazy, making things up. But I wasn't buying her act anymore. I told her I knew about the hotel, the after-hours meetings, everything. I said I couldn't believe I had trusted her all these years. Her eyes flickered with rage and contempt as she spat back. "You don't get to control my life, Mike. If I want to cheat or see whoever I want, that's none of your business anymore." That's when I snapped. All the rage and hurt boiled over. I told her she was a selfish bitch who destroyed everything we had. I said I was done being played for a fool. Her lips curled into a sneer and she spat. "You think you're so high and mighty, huh? You're just a boring, insecure guy who couldn't satisfy me anymore. That's why I had to find someone who actually knows how to have fun." I felt my fists tighten. I was so furious I could barely speak. I told her she was a whore, that I'd never forgive her, and that I'd make her regret this mess she'd created. I threatened to take everything from her, custody of Emily, the house, and her reputation. I wanted her to see that she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. Her face was a mask of hatred, but I saw the flicker of fear behind her eyes when I said I'd expose her at the school, tell everyone what she'd done with the principal. That would ruin her, her career, her reputation, her life. She stormed off, cursing and yelling at me, but I didn't chase her. I just watched her leave, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I knew I'd done what I had to do. I had the proof, the power now. But deep down, I also knew this was just the beginning of a war I wasn't sure I'd win. My mind kept spinning with plans, how to confront her, how to ruin her in front of her friends, how to make her pay for the hurt she'd caused. I hadn't slept since I found out, and I knew I wouldn't for a long time. That night, I sat alone, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide my next move. I knew I had to do something big, something that would make her regret ever betraying me. I thought about calling the school, telling them everything, but I hesitated. I didn't want to destroy her career outright yet. I just wanted her to see that I knew that I was serious. For now, I'd gather even more evidence, plan my next steps, and prepare myself for the inevitable fallout, because I was done being the naive husband. She pushed me to the edge, and I was ready to edge back with everything I had. The days that followed were a blur. I stayed quiet, gathering my thoughts and organizing my next moves. Every time I saw her car pull into that principal's driveway or caught her sneaking out late at night, a part of me wanted to explode. But I knew I had to stay calm, bigger. Plans were in motion. I kept digging into every corner of her life that I could access. I wanted her to feel the noose tighten around her, to understand that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. One afternoon, I stumbled across something I hadn't seen before, an email thread from her work account. It was between her and the principal, Michael. I read every message, and what I saw was worse than I expected. They had been exchanging not just flirtatious texts, but detailed plans to meet, even talking about doing it during school hours in secret. I felt my stomach turn with disgust. How could she be so reckless? She had no regard for anyone but herself. I stared at the screen, rage bubbling up again. I knew I had to act fast. If I didn't, she'd find some way to cover her tracks or spin it as a misunderstanding. So I wrote an anonymous tip to the school district, giving them a rundown of what I'd found, detailing her meetings with the principal, their after-hours rendezvous, the explicit texts. I made sure to keep my identity hidden, but I knew this would cause chaos. I'd finally get the proof I needed to blow everything wide open. The night I sent the email, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and dread. I knew I'd set something in motion that couldn't be undone. The next morning, my phone was flooded with calls, texts, and emails from the school, the district, even some of her friends asking what was going on. I didn't respond right away. I wanted to see how they'd handle it. I stayed in the background, watching everything unfold. It didn't take long before the school launched an investigation, and her name started to surface all over the news within the school community. Rumors spread like wildfire, and I saw her face turn pale when she found out. Meanwhile, I was preparing myself emotionally. I knew she'd try to spin it, deny everything, or turn it around on me. But I didn't care anymore. I'd already lost trust. All I cared about now was making her feel the weight of her betrayal. I knew that exposing her publicly would be the ultimate revenge, a way to make her see that she couldn't manipulate or lie her way out of this. I was done being the forgiving husband. She pushed me too far, and I was ready to make her pay one way or another. At the same time, I tried to stay composed for Emily's sake. I didn't want her to see the chaos or be caught in the middle, but I had to be honest with her someday, what her mother had done. I knew I had to prepare myself for that conversation. I didn't want to ruin her, but I also didn't want her growing up thinking her mother was some perfect angel. That was a hard line to walk. Still, I promised myself I wouldn't let this destroy her innocence, at least not completely. I was trying to hold it together, but inside I was falling apart. The trust I once had in everything, my marriage, my wife, the life we built, was shattered beyond repair. And I knew the fallout was only just beginning. The fallout hit harder than I expected. Once the school investigation went public, Lisa's reputation crumbled almost overnight. Teachers, parents, friends, everyone started talking. The principal, Michael, was suspended pending further review, and Lisa was called into the school administration office, where she broke down crying, trying to deny everything and insisting she was being unfairly accused. But the dam was broken, and nothing she said could undo what I had already exposed. I watched her crumble, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and deep disappointment. I'd wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, wanted her to see the damage she'd caused. But watching her fall apart, I realized how much I'd lost, not just the trust in her, but the respect I once had for the woman I married. I never thought I'd see her like that, vulnerable and exposed, hiding behind tears and lies. I felt a strange sense of closure, knowing I'd finally revealed the truth and taken back some control. In the weeks that followed, I moved out of the house. I told Emily the truth as best as I could, age-appropriate but honest. I wanted her to understand that her mother made a terrible mistake, and that sometimes adults mess up beyond repair. It wasn't easy, explaining to a 12-year-old why her parents weren't together anymore, but I knew it was necessary. I didn't want her growing up thinking her mother was perfect. I wanted her to see the reality, that people can be broken, and sometimes love isn't enough to fix everything. Lisa tried to fight for the marriage, to save face, to deny everything in public, but I saw through her act. I knew she was trying to cling to her reputation, to salvage what little was left of her life. I didn't want that. I was done. I turned over a new leaf, even though it hurt like hell. I knew I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I had to move on. For Emily's sake, for my own. Looking back now, I realize I've learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But what hurts more is knowing how someone you loved and trusted can betray you so completely. I don't think I'll ever fully recover from this, but I'm stronger now. I've learned to be cautious, to guard my heart, and to never ignore the warning signs. To anyone going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't wait until it's too late to see the signs. If someone is hiding things, being secretive, or behaving differently, don't brush it off. Confront it, get the proof, and be honest with yourself. Because betrayal cuts deep. And rebuilding after that takes time. But in the end, I know I'll get through it. And maybe someday I'll find someone who's worthy of my trust again. Until then, I'll focus on healing and rebuilding what's left of my life.